Board and Speaker of the House. He has also served as the White House Chief of Staff and other positions throughout the government. Then, former Secretary OrganizedOwen5443 has most recently served as the Secretary of Homeland Security. He has also served in other executive branch departments, such as the White House staff and the Department of State. And both candidates came out.
Okay, we're going to start with our opening statements. Ty, you're going to go first. Bad. How about you say it?
That's good enough. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, moderators. As you all know, I am the vice president. I am amazing, and I am very happy to be here and to be with such a great opposing candidate, Mr. Owen over there. I think that I am going to be a great president when I win, and I'm sure that at this debate you will learn exactly why. And that's all I got.
Okay, that was fast as fuck. Alright, Owen, go ahead with your opening statement.
Awesome. Right. Hello all, and welcome to the presidential debate. This debate is about sharing our alternatives, our message, and our goals for the upcoming presidential cycle. Now let it be known, me and my opponent won't see eye to eye throughout this debate. We will have disagreements. But in the end, we are united by the same goal, doing what is the best for the future of this community. I have been in this community for around or near 3 years. I've seen some of the community's best memories and all-time highs, but also some of its lowest points within its history. Now this cycle is a decisive one. As many will know, during the July-August presidential cycle, a lot of people are off from school, off from work, meaning they'll have more time to dedicate themselves within the community. This means this community and this great nation can't afford a paper-pushing administration. This next administration has to be strong, outgoing with new events, and put out change for the better. Because realistically, we can't go back and revert progress. It's about moving forward, and when you go to the ballot box for election day, we want to ensure with our motives and intentions for the community, with our answers we provide you tonight, that you can happily put your faith and trust in mine and Peter White's ticket, your future administration. In other words, let me first and foremost thank the FEC for hosting this debate and giving the American people more of a chance to feel good and who they will place their trust in when they head to vote. I want to wish my opponent the best of luck and for a healthy debate. Thank you.
Alright, we're going to move right into the questions. Let's see, where the fuck are my notes? Alright, we're going to start with Owen. What are your top 3 priorities if elected as president? You got 2 minutes on the clock. 2 minutes on the clock. Do you need me to repeat the question? You good?
Was that for me or Ty?
I said you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, start the clock. My 3... Oh, sorry. I'll just keep this short then. My 3 main goals is the military, DHS, and finally, new events for the community. I yield my time.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the same question to you, Tad. What are your top 3 priorities if elected as president?
My top 3 priorities, if elected, are to establish NATO and boost our foreign activity, to fix up all the DHS departments that are currently not doing very well, and to boost our military activity, which is included with the NATO thing, but it is separate.
You yield your time?
Yeah, I yield my time, sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna offer Owen a chance to rebut anything. Do you want to respond to that at all?
No, I don't need a rebuttal on that.
Okay, Tad, same question.
I'm good.
Okay, moving on. Tad, question is, first, for you, in your opinion, what is the biggest problem OSF faces, and what is your plan to address it? 2 minutes on the clock, go ahead. I'll remind both candidates that last night when we talked about this, that the questions will be alternating between the 2 of you, and that when I say that the clock is starting, the clock will continuously be starting.
Wait, okay, that was for Owen or me?
That was for you. Is my mic cutting out? What's going on here?
Sorry, I did not hear it. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm gonna let the clock restart this one time. That's it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Both y'all use your ears. In your opinion, what is the biggest problem OSF faces, and what is your plan to address it? 2 minutes on the clock. Go ahead.
I'd say the biggest problem that OSF currently faces is that uh, the game is slowly becoming less and less of an active space, and events are becoming more stale. My plan to fix it is to host way more different variety events and different diplomatic events, and to boost our law enforcement activity. I yield time.
Okay. Owen, same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
I'm good.
God.
Right, awesome. I personally think the biggest problem with OSF faces is that I still think we're currently still struggling to find new faces to move forward and be the next generation of our community. I feel like departments internally aren't giving them the opportunity. We need to fix that. There's a lot of internal issues we can see from our perspective that needs to be fixed. And that's going to be the main priority to fix that. Because if we don't bring new members into the community, we're not going to have fresh ideas going forward for the community. I yield.
Okay. Dad, I'm gonna give you a chance to respond to that if you want.
I would like to respond.
You got a minute 30 on the clock, Ed.
I can ask a question, right?
You can ask Owen a question, yes.
Right. Mr. Owen, during your time as Secretary of State and Secretary of Homeland Security, I don't recall ever seeing that many new faces come into different leadership spots in your departments, especially as Secretary of State, where a lot of the returning faces were similar from the past. So my question is, why didn't you do that while you were in the leadership of those departments?
Owen, you can respond to that.
Lovely. Well, Ty, I think you must have been very non-existent if you weren't seeing that. When I took over as Secretary of State, we had a massive mission. It's to revive DOS, because at the time, we just left a declining OUN that is now officially dead. And from that, our main goal and main priority was to get ourselves stable into a new United Nations. People can't expect us to bring in new faces straight away and help us with that mission, because it's too big of a goal. And like I say, it's very hard to get a United States stabilized into a new UN. Now, as we've gone throughout the term, we did bring in new faces. We were able to bring Vinny in, who is now our Secretary of State. We've been able to establish a diplomatic envoy program, which has brought new faces into it. And before I left, we had 3 new people onto that program who were new to the community and had no experience with foreign affairs and were getting mentored. One of which was your running mate. I yield.
Okay. Does anyone have anyone else to say that question? We're good to go.
May I repeat to what Ty said before? A rebuttal on his comments before to the question.
I'll give you a minute.
Thank you. Now, Ty, one thing I've got a massive concern for. You see, one of the biggest issues and biggest problems for OSF is events. You've been vice president during this term. Why haven't you addressed this? You've been a massive face. You're the next in line to the succession of the presidency, and you can't tell me that you have not been able to be in the position to bring in these new events. If you've seen new events, you could have been a team player in the administration and then established these new events. People would give you credit for that, for being. Was that 30 seconds? I'll
Yes.
cut the rest short.
Keep talking. We'll stop you when you're done.
Awesome. Now, if we look back to when Revocate was vice president, he was making his own events. He had his own programs, his own initiatives under Bupa. Why couldn't you have done the same? I yield.
Okay, Tad, I'm gonna give you, just for the sake of time, you're gonna have a minute to respond to that.
Okay. Well, the answer is I have worked closely with Revocate for this term. That's the difference, because his events are also part of our broader agenda that we campaign for. And I have just as much of a part in most of the events, mainly congressional ones, not all of them, but mainly congressional ones, as Revocate did. That I yield.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our next question. Owen, we're gonna start with you. The question being, and I'm gonna repeat this, starting with Owen. How will your administration improve communication between the government and the community? 2 minutes on the clock, go ahead.
Awesome. I believe transparency should be one of the number one key things that I'll establish. If people's read my platform, I want to re-establish the press office within the White House, bring back the press office, press secretary, and that would bring bi-weekly press conferences. Now, one thing I will say, every decision we make, every plan we make will be transparent and will be said to the public as well in a release officiated by the White House. I personally believe that if I'm not communicating with the administration, then they've elected me just to do my own thing. That is not the case. What I'm focusing running on is to move forward, to move this community forward. And the first start we must do is get the transparency right and making sure we're getting the right communications with the American people. So the short answer to that is we're going to establish the press office, and we're going to make sure on every single issue, and I mean every single issue, there's a comment to that. And also we want to open a feedback form in which if people have any questions, press corps have any questions, they will get a 24-hour response to that. We want to make sure our White House, your White House, will be as transparent with anything that goes on within the government. I yield.
Okay, Tad, same question. Do you need me to repeat it or you're all set?
Could you just repeat it just so I remember exactly?
How will your administration improve communication between the government and the community? Go ahead, 2 minutes on the clock.
Our plan to increase communication with the public is presidential press briefings like my opponent. However, unlike his, which are bi-weekly, mine are going to be weekly. And not only are they going to brief the public and the press, they are also going to be open for the public to ask directly. And we are also planning, my vice presidential candidate and I are planning to have Congress conduct more hearings on my potential appointees that I will be giving them, and just to the department's executives as a whole, because hearings are good for things like this. They build trust with the departments. And that's what I would aim to do. I yield.
Okay, Owen, I'm going to give you 1:30 to respond if you wish.
Yes, please.
1:30 on the clock, good.
Well, first of all, I don't know why the Vice President has toddled off to talk about Congress and saying he's going to feed questions to Congress. I'm pretty sure people of the legislative branch can make their own questions on his appointees if he's elected. But let me just highlight one key thing. He wants to do them weekly. Let me be quite clear on one thing. You're going to have to get things done throughout these weeks. I don't want to have weekly press conferences and announce one thing. That's what has happened in previous administrations where they've had press conferences and they've announced one thing. At least with bi-weekly, you can announce multiple things on your agenda, multiple things of changes. We're not going to be a slow administration. Mine's going to be a fast one. We're going to get things done right, and transparency and communication will be one of them. I yield.
Okay, Tad, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, please.
1:30 on the clock, good.
So first, to clarify, I'm not feeding them. I'm not feeding Congress questions. I am simply encouraging them to conduct hearings because, as is evident recently, Congress has decided to skip hearings entirely if they feel that the individual does not need a hearing, even if maybe they do, because there may be something that they don't know, even if the individual themselves is fine in their eyes. And in terms of weekly press briefings, I You are still saying that you want to get things done in 2 weeks, which is not entirely that much of a time difference if you want to get something done in an administration. Having things done in a week versus 2 weeks is not the biggest change, except that I will be doing more. I yield.
Okay, assuming that that's the end of it, we're gonna move on to the next question. Any objections? Good to go? Okay, moving on. Hearing nothing. Starting with Tad, how do you plan to increase activity and player retention across departments? 2 minutes on the clock, go ahead.
My plan to increase activity is to simply have more to do in the game, more events and more national security events as well. More national security events means that there will be more interest in security departments and more crime to attack and potentially kill someone important like me who was killed before. Not just different events in terms of domestic, but also foreign visits that can, and which will be included with other things I'm planning to do. But that is the main goal. I yield.
Okay, Owen, same question. Do you need me to repeat it, or are you good to go?
No, I'm fine.
2 minutes on the clock, go ahead.
Thank you. I think the most important thing is that we need to sort things internally, because we can't promise activity if we're not hitting the marks where things need to be said and changed. Now, for example, some departments have been given very little to do. Arguably, White House Military Office, they're doing the same thing. We can get them more involved. If we're limiting the options for these departments, they're going to get bored and these departments are going to die out. That's the main thing. We need to tackle that first before we can actually even move to talk about increasing activity. But sorting internal issues first helps you move forward to then hitting these marks with these events and such like that. So, I yield.
Okay, Tad, I'm gonna give you a... wow, sorry, my brain just shut off completely for 2 seconds there. Christ, I'm gonna give you a second to respond. You wanna respond, yes or no?
No response.
Okay, well, no response means no side needs to rebut. So, moving on to the next question. Owen, starting with you. Recently, we've seen issues regarding the Office of the Inspector General. What is your plan for the office if elected? 2 minutes on the clock, Ed.
Well, as many will know, that obviously it's in the works with the current administration. To obviously make changes to the Inspector General. One thing I want to see is I can guarantee, well, I can't make the guarantees, but one thing I can definitely say is that the current president is working entirely hard to make sure the reforms are put in place before the next administration. I want to see how that goes first within regarding that. But one thing I'll say is that the thing is with the Inspector General Office, and it's massive issues, it's because there's been too many conflicts of interest and nobody wants to take on these positions. So this is why I'm hoping that obviously with the backing the current administration's plans to reform the Inspector General, I'm pretty sure that once we take office, we'll be able to move forward with that plan and make sure it's completed with its frameworks and foundations. I yield.
Okay, Tad, same question. Do you need me to repeat or are you good to go?
I'm good.
2 minutes on the clock, Ed.
As my opponent stated, the Office of the Inspector General reforms are currently being underdone by this administration, which happens to be the administration I am currently the vice president of. I have a lot of faith in the president's plan, which I have contributed to in some part, and when I take over, I will make sure that it is carried out effectively. I yield.
Okay, oh, and I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that.
If I may.
Yep, minute 30, God.
Well, way to go, Ty, to obviously use the vice president card to obviously further and boost your agenda. Nice one. I personally believe, and I know from prior times, that the administration has been working with many other individuals. They've been working with people who's outside the community veterans, And the fact that you just noted yourself that I'm vice president of, you're under acknowledging the other people who've been involved within these projects, which I think is very disrespectful. A lot of people's put their efforts into this project, especially with Inspector General, because I think it's coming to a point now where we want to make sure that the current frameworks the new administrations are putting in place will be for the long-term solutions of this community. Now, I'm just going to make it quite clear that as much as my opponent can play the vice president card, I'm not someone who will take credit under my administration. I will be a team player, and I believe in teamwork because that's the only way
Yeah,
we're going to get things done in this administration. I yield my time.
Okay, Tad, I'm going to give you a second to respond to that if you want.
Yeah, I want to respond.
Minute 30, go.
I just want to clarify, I'm not saying that this was entirely my idea and that nobody else played a part of it. My role was not a very big one. Most of it was done by advisors and the president. However, and in terms of the vice president card, as you call it, I am the vice president. Should I not say that? It says it in my name. And also, again, this doesn't take away from the actual answer to the question, which is that the plan being put in place now is the plan that I will continue to use when going forward. I yield.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else they want to say on this question, or are we good to move on?
Good to move on.
Perfect. Next question, starting with Tad. What is one thing that sets you apart from the other candidate, and what benefit does it bring to the country as a whole? 2 minutes on the clock. Gad.
One difference I have to my opponent here is that, unlike him, I have experience within actual administration positions and in sectors that he is not entirely experienced with, mainly Congress and also the military. He was a very good Secretary of State, I will admit. However, I was the Deputy Secretary of War, the first one, in fact, and I am also the Vice President, which gives me incredible experience within managing the executive branch, which is also tied to my previous role as White House Chief of Staff, and I held leadership positions in both chambers of Congress. One as right now, which is the Vice President, and when I was the Speaker of the House. Mr. Owen here has experience within the Department of State and Department of Homeland Security, which are very important. However, that's not the whole country. I yield.
Okay, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that, if you so wish.
Oh, you mean straight into rebuttals, or am I allowed to answer
Oh my god,
bit?
did I forget to let you answer the question? I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Go ahead and
Yeah.
answer the question.
Alright.
You have 2 minutes. It's one
Yeah,
of
of
those
course.
days. I've been dealing with a dog that's...
Don't worry, it's fine. When it
tired.
comes to differences between to the opponent, I will be very guaranteed that my leadership experience within this community is a hell a lot of more than he has handled. All he has been playing so far within this debate is the vice president card. Let me tell you some of my experiences. I have been Secretary of Homeland Security, in which I did so good in that position. I got even a better polling than the president in that administration. I revived, with the efforts of my team, we revived the Department of State when I was Secretary of State. I also served as White House Chief of Staff, in which I revived the White House press calls back when it was that administration. He says I don't have a lot of Congress experience. Let's move on to that. I was in the House of Representatives for various and many terms, in which I delivered long-standing bills. I think it was 4 of amending the code, and not only that did I mentor many people who were in the legislative branch. I've also served in the Senate. Now, one thing is, I'm not a career legislator. However, my opponent continues to say, "Oh, well, I was the first Deputy Secretary of War." Guess what? I've also served in the United States Marine Corps. Now, just because you've held a leadership position, it doesn't mean that you're an experienced, entitled person. It doesn't. If you've experienced the group in which I have, I've been here for 3 years in which I've experienced variety of the community. Just because I never held in a lot of high positions, it doesn't mean I haven't got experience within these areas. Now, my opponent may argue he was the first Deputy Secretary of War. What did he do in that? What's he done as Vice President? What has he done as Speaker of the House? Because I'm pretty sure he didn't do much in that position either. We can't just use leadership positions to further our agenda. It's got to come from experience and plans. I yield.
All right. It looks like you crashed there, bud. Coming back to the game, or what's the deal? Reese, get the fuck off the stage, or I'll shoot you.
Oh, it's fine.
Thank you.
I disconnected from the game. My bad.
Yeah.
I'll rejoin.
All right. Well, you're still in the call, so I'm gonna keep moving on just because. Fuck it. Tad, you have 1:30 to respond, should you so wish to do so. But I am going to remind both candidates to kind of take a little bit of a chill pill. It is a light game at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't want to respond.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Which question am I on? Let's see. Maybe. Starting with Owen. OSF USA has established NATO multiple times in the past and has participated in the organization, but many of those alliances eventually became inactive or were dissolved because they had problems. Long story short, many problems. Anyways, why should the community believe that the current NATO, should it be formed again in, what is it, UNV, whatever the fuck it is now, will succeed where previous attempts did not? 2 minutes on the clock, God.
Well, my answer to that is I don't believe NATO should be re-established. Now, I don't want to confuse people when I've said this, because I do want to establish a military organization founded by the United States and other nations, but I don't want to be specifically with NATO. And I do believe you are right. NATO has failed many times before. We've seen it under the Teddy administration. We've seen it previous when other people's tried to bring it back. It hasn't worked out. And I don't know if my opponent is aware, we already have a NATO that is within the United Nations first, but it's dead. That should tell us one thing about NATO within this community and in that international community in itself. It's not going to work. It's going to be a waste of resources, and it's going to be a waste of time. We can't waste the time on pointless projects that's not going to work. We need to refocus our time on things that will work, such as the internal parts with our defense, before even moving on to the branches of, founding a military organization. Now, that is the end goal for my ticket. But one thing is, we do understand the steps before that we've got to take. But for the short reason and for the short answer, one thing I will say is that I don't believe NATO should be re-established. I use my time.
All right. Tad, 2 minutes on the clock, Ed. Unless you need me to repeat the question.
No, I'm good. NATO is good for UNV because, unlike other times, especially in what you mentioned, the Teddy administration, UNV is actually active. The current NATO, which yes, I do know about, is inactive. However, that is largely due to member states not actively participating in it, which included a former United States in the UN that has since left. We're planning to not just have it be defensive, by the way, but also have it conduct multiple different events, both in our game and other games, and to coordinate militaries to boost activity across the board. NATO, yes, has failed in the past, especially in OUN and especially under former President Teddy. However, I'm not Teddy, and I think I can do it, and I think that it'll benefit the nation in the long run. I yield.
Okay, I want to give you a second to respond to that, if you so wish to do so.
Yes, please.
1:30, God.
Look, we can stop. I ain't going to play the blame game with NATO. But we've tried NATO even since this community's founding. NATO's been trying to be a thing that hasn't worked out for us. Now, we can talk about, as I said before, it can be a long-term goal, right? I'm not against of us founding a military organization. What I am against is establishing specifically NATO. And when I was Secretary of State, we made the amends to that by working with the Secretary General of UNV to re-amend a certain resolution, which then basically puts some limits onto military organizations, but in the long run, it helps them become more active. because there was issues in UNV prior, so we made sure that amendment was put in place. But we can say about there's other nations involved who want to participate. Question is, and this is a big question, which nations want to be part of NATO that's already been a failed project? Because it's been a failed project before. Other nations in UNV have seen it's been a failed project before. They're not going to try it again. However, they are willing, and I can remember from my time as Secretary of State, they are willing to see a military organization thrive, but not NATO. And sooner the Vice President gets that through with the head, better. I yield my time.
All right, Chad, I'm going to give you a minute 30 to respond to that, if you wish to do so.
No response, please.
Alrighty, moving on to our final question for the evening. Maybe we'll take one or two audience questions, just because we actually are doing pretty good on time. So starting with you, anyways, because, you're up next. If elected, what are your initial plans for the first 30 days in office? 2 minutes.
Thank you. For my first 30 days, I am first going to lay the groundwork for all of my policies, which include CBP reform and NATO, and boosting our in activity in game. I'm planning to host a lot of events, and I'm planning to to improve our internal reforms, and also I want to make sure that everyone I nominate is getting a fair hearing, even if they were renominated, which I'm not saying they are, because I can't say that. I yield.
Okay, Owen, same question. Do you need me to repeat that, or are you good to go?
If you don't mind.
Alrighty, first, the question was, if elected, what are your initial plans for the first 30 days in office?
Thank you. So in my first 30 days of office, I think we need to be quite clear. We need to do an investigation. Something I took inspiration from President Roosevelt is one of his goals was he did an internal investigation in a lot of departments, because obviously there's a lot of crisis within them times, but within OSF in itself, there's a lot of positions, a lot of departments that are facing inactivity. So this is just even my first week, I'll be doing an internal investigation within all these departments to see what the state of these departments are. Once we have found the information, I will then also report back the findings and then lay it down in front of the White House press and tell them how I'm going to fix them issues. Because I can honestly say that I can't deliver my mandate to the American people without fixing the issues beforehand, because then we're just jumping a step ahead. And one thing, I want to establish new events. I want to bring in, I don't know if people have seen, but I want to bring in a White House racing event, a mini games tournament, and an international event which allows new other nations to come to the White House. Not even the White House, Washington, and we have other nations bid to even host these events as well. And that's just going another step ahead, not only in diplomacy, but obviously the UNV as a whole. We're taking another step that we haven't gone before. And so mainly internal issues, having a cabinet that is reliable to meeting the expectations of this administration, and more focusedly, I want to make sure that we have good communication with Congress within the first 30 days as well, because a lot of things need to be done, especially legislative-wise. And if we don't have good communication on that, we're going to be set behind, especially in time deadline. You only get 2 months in office.
Please stop speaking.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Do either of you, before we move on to community questions, want to say anything regarding that question? Anyone want to respond to that?
No thanks.
Nope.
Hearing nothing, we're going to move on to our audience questions, starting with our first one. It's going to be, let's see, let me read this. 1 second. I do need glasses, I just refuse to actually get them. Where the fuck did it go? My god, I genuinely can't find. Yes. Alright, we're gonna start with, let's see who started last. Let me find my notes. Starting with Owen. Say one nice thing about your opponent. 2 minutes on the clock. God.
One nice thing I can say about Thai is that regardless of us being opponents today, people who run for president are people who generally care for this community, and this is a community that I hold so dearly to my heart. And the fact that Thai's obviously offering a solution to that, and he's also giving other people a chance. It's good for this community. It's good to have healthy debate, and I have high respect for him for doing that. I yield.
Hey, Tad, same question. Do you need me to repeat it, or are you good to go?
No, I'm good. The nice thing I want to... Alright, sorry. One nice thing I want to say about Owen is that I think he was a phenomenal Secretary of State. He was Secretary of State during the first month while I was Vice President, and I think he was doing a great job over there. And I think that he left his department a lot better than he found it. And so, good job, Owen. I yield.
Okay. Because that question was fairly friendly, I am going to just ask generally, do either of you have anything you want to say to continue this?
Oh, the question? No.
Yes. As in responding. No?
No.
Perfect. Moving on to another audience question. I will say that out of the 3 that we have received, all of them are geared specifically at Tad. So I'm going to try to word them in a way that you both can kind of answer them, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Starting with our first one. Sorry, I'm trying to see how I can do this. That your campaign has centered on, and for the record, all these are anonymous. I am not going to be saying who asked me these questions. Anyways, centered on leadership, consistency, and commitment. However, many people in OSF argue that your record as vice president demonstrated the opposite. How do you respond to voters who believe your campaign is built on rhetoric more than your actual record in office?
I think that while maybe people do have concerns about me about my time as vice president, however, I do say look back of what I have accomplished in the community. I've done a lot, and I'm going to continue to do a lot, especially if I'm elected as president. I do know that there are concerns about me, and I know that maybe people aren't entirely confident in me as president. However, I know that I'll be doing a lot, and I've laid out everything that I am going to do. And even if it just sounds like words, it's still words that I intend to act on. I yield.
Okay, in order to try to make this geared toward you, how is your admin gonna handle that differently? 2 minutes on the clock, Ed.
Can you repeat that, sorry?
Sure. Basically, same question, but given that it wasn't geared specifically toward you, because again, none of these are, for the community question, sorry, I'm probably gonna limit how many I take.
Basically,
yeah, basically, the question to him was, how do you respond to voters who believe your campaign is built on more than rhetoric than your actual record in office? So basically, my question to you is, are you able to back up your shit? Long story short, 2 minutes on the clock. Go ahead. This is the problem.
So basically, like I said, I've been in this community for quite a while now. I've served in many positions in which I've proven myself, especially with the kind words of the Vice President about my term as Secretary of State. And within my successful leadership of not only the Department of State but Department of Homeland Security, I'm pretty sure that should say to a long length that what I'm saying and what I'm backing up is something I can deliver. And honestly, when it comes to obviously my leadership as a whole, I've always tried to structure it in a way that I get new people involved, have a teamwork ethic. So, as many people may have concerns about my campaign, and I won't deny that some people may do, but let me just put it out this way, right? From my experience and from my past, I've delivered, and I also intend to deliver when I'm your next president of the United States. Because I have the time, I've got the effort, and I've got the energy to make sure that what we do is right, is for the best way the community. We ain't going to be a paper pushing administration. We're going to be an engaging one. We're going to be an active one, and we're going to deliver. And we're going to make sure you put your trust in us, and we're going to repay that back. I hope that answers the question. I yield.
Okay, does anyone have anything else to say for this?
No.
No? Okay. Alright. Sorry, we are having a bunch of fucking questions getting sent through. I'm trying to scroll through them as fast as humanly fucking possible here. Alright. Oh, actually, we did end up getting a question for Owen specifically. So we're going to do the Uno reverse, and then we'll have one final question, and then we'll just wrap it. If your question, to people in the audience, if your question did not get asked because we... just asking the candidates' individual campaign servers. That way you get all the answers that you need. Good to go? Good to go. Alright. Let's see. How is your previous experience prepared you to serve as president, and what accomplishments from your past roles demonstrate that you are ready for the responsibilities of that office?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, of course. So, let me just go through a bit of my background. So, when I was White House Chief of Staff, one of my main accomplishments was reviving the White House Press Corps, and that's very big, because one thing I'm going on in this administration is transparency and making sure that we're transparent with the public. So that backs out one thing. When I was Secretary of Homeland Security, I did a lot to, with the help of my team and the SS executive staff at the time, we revived SS. We had many agents on at the time. We had a strong SRT team, and all that works with communication. And I understand that the Department of Homeland Security currently are having issues with that. So from previous experience, I know how we can make amends and make changes to that. And even when it came to Congress as well, I know how to work with Congress from an executive level, and being a former legislator myself. It's making sure that, and I've said this previously, I ain't perfect, and I'm not going to be a perfect president. And I don't think my opponent would be a perfect president either, because in life we ain't perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And one thing that is really good with communication is that if we listen to all our ideas and put all offering onto the table,
30 seconds.
The plan you had originally actually comes out better than you thought. So communication is going to be key with Congress, and that's something I've delivered in previous times as well. So I believe from what I've told you in the summary of the time I've had, I'm hoping that gives you a bit of leeway and energy to tell you why I'm the right choice to be next president. I yield.
Okay, Ted, did you want to, because that was directed directly at Owen, did you want to say anything on that? Do you want to move on?
Can we move on? I do actually have to eat at some point.
Yep, that sounds like a great plan. So on to our final question, depending on how long this one takes. In regards to the CBP, whatever the fuck that stands for. Again, long day. What are your plans for that specifically, and are you both aware that it has been reformed repeatedly? So what are your plans for that department specifically, and do you believe that reforming it continuously is a dead end? We're a star of Tad on that one. Bad Tad. Same way. 2 minutes on the clock, God. Yes, Customs and Border Patrol. That is what it is. Thank you, AD.
My administration, if elected, will be the one that will finally tackle the long-standing issue with Customs and Border Patrol, or Protection, one of those. Working to revitalize the agency to increase our operational opportunities for personnel. One of the ways we will attempt this is through border operations, working on creating a crisis simulation where Customs and Border Patrol agents can deploy and participate in these events. Alright, I yield.
Owen, do you need me to repeat it, or are you good to go?
No, I'm good to go.
God, 2 minutes on the clock.
Thank you. So with CBP, One thing I will say is that obviously there was a poll done quite a while back regards to CBP, and basically the founders wanted to hear from the community's perspective on how they can help make CBP better. So one thing I'll do when I'm first in office, I'm going to follow up on that poll, see if there's any plans by the development team to see what changes they may have had in mind for CBP, or if, you know, they've disregarded that. Just so then I can then put a structured plan in place for CBP. But one thing I do want to bring in place, which I sadly didn't have the time to when I was Secretary of Homeland Security, and which will bring a lot more activity and more people want to be in CBP, is I want to reopen the Office of Field Operations, and basically I want it to be a bit more of a competition between crime and, you know, the CBP officers when trying to go for cargo. We're going to try and get cargo to be a bit more fun, energetic, give crime more to do, giving CBP a bit more purpose. That's going to be one of the ways we're going to get CBP back on track. I yield.
Okay, Ted, do you want to respond to that at all?
I'm good.
Okay. With that, we are going to end it. Actually, do you guys want to answer that one final question, or do you want to move on, Rolex? Leave it up.
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Okay.
I don't mind.
That's consent for one, so I'm going to take it as consent for both. Close enough. Never use that in real life. That's not an actual... Anyways, in terms of having fair... We're going to start with that for this one. In terms of fair hearings in Congress, there has been speculation that... I'm just going to read this one directly. Fuck it. Ted, you say you want fair hearings in Congress. Are you saying the current ones are not fairly done? If so, why have you not done anything about it yet?
There are 2 minutes.
Yep, 2 minutes at the clock, Dad.
There have been some hearings recently that have not been entirely fair for the person that has the hearing for them, and also for others that are conducting the hearing. I believe that Congress needs to basically get their act together, and that's what I'm going to try and do as president, and what I am trying to do right now as vice president. However, they're pretty good at sometimes keeping things from me, so sometimes it's a bit hard to figure it out, but I'm working on it now, and if I'm elected, I'm going to keep working on it, and my VP candidate, if elected, will also be working on it. I yield.
Alright, Owen, same question to you. Basically, what are your thoughts on how Congress runs their hearings? Do you believe they're fair? Not fair? What are your thoughts? 2 minutes on the clock.
Now, I personally believe that, you know, Congress have every way in their right to how they conduct hearings. However, you know, I do disagree with how they've dealt with hearings before. One was quite recent, actually. I'm not going to name any names, but I personally believe like I said, it's going to be a communication thing. It's not going. I don't want to tell Congress how to do their shit. It's a different branch to what I'm running for. However, if we can get the message clear to make sure they can be held accountable within hearings, as well as making sure it's a fair process and both sides are being heard, then that's something I'm going to be advocating for when I'm in office. I yield.
Okay. Dad, do you want to respond to that at all?
No.
Okay, so we're going to finally move on to our closing statements. Ted, because you started first, Owen, you are going to close. 5 minutes on the clock, Dad.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, everyone, I hope they've enjoyed this debate. I hope it's given you all a bit more insight of which candidate is best for you to deliver for your community. Without you guys, there's no community without you guys. My message is simply quite clear, and I hope I've answered that within the debate. My campaign has been offering strong solutions for the future of this community, and I can assure you, if I'm elected, we're going to have some fun times. We're going to have a fun time in the July presidential cycle, because let's face it, everyone's off. We're going to have a bit of fun with it. We're going to enjoy it. We have plans to work on, but let me just tell you straight up, it isn't going to be a straight road of roses. It isn't. We're going to have bumps and curves, but let me just tell you, I want you guys to hold me accountable when I'm elected. I want you to tell me when I'm wrong, because at the end of the day, this is a two-way thing. We want to hear your feedback, because, like I said, there's no community without you guys. But this ticket is all about new change, a new step forward, and together, we are going to lead together. This isn't just my administration, this is your administration. We're going to lead together, and we're united by purpose as a whole. I hope, and yeah, that's it from me. I yield.
Okay. Last but not least, had 5 minutes on the clock for your closing statement. Yeah.
I thank everybody for coming out here to this great debate. Thanks for seeing me on here. I know that perhaps many of you aren't entirely happy with how I conducted myself here. However, I still want you all to know I am committed to this country and this campaign, and as president, I will be even more committed to this country than I am right now. And even if I'm not elected, I will still do everything I can to make the country better, even if it isn't in the White House. However, my plan is for it to be in the White House. And I know that it'll be an uphill battle, especially for me, since my opponent has a lot of big name endorsers. But I am sure that I can make things work, and I can make things better, and I want to make and I yield because I need to eat actually, like right now.
Tonight's debate. For those of you who have attended, thank you for listening. Hopefully, see you all there for the vice presidential debate on Friday at 5 p.m. Again, if your question was not asked, I do apologize for not being able to get to everyone, but only so much we can do given the time frame that we have. Make sure you ask your questions in the candidates' respective servers, because they have question channels. Have a great day, have a great night. Godspeed.
My ears, nobody
Yeah,
puts
those are
anything in
fucking
my
weird.
ears.
That is fucking weird. It seems like unnatural to see it on a goddamn Lego game, you know what I'm saying?
You guys are just